The first thing that I want to do is share with you about our project, how Nivi, Jaswal, and I came together, how we're working together. And then most importantly, I want to share with you about our guest speaker, Lynne Lisa. So the CoachPreneur Project, that's the project that Nivi, Jaswal, and I have brainstormed and brought into fruition together. The CoachPreneur Project is an evidence-based wellness and strategies and stories powered by lifestyle change and positive psychology. Probably that mission resonates with all of you, and in particular, those of you who trained at Mayo Clinic or elsewhere to move into this arena of wellness, and particularly with an interest in family wellness. So, Nivi and I met at the Mayo Clinic. We have 40 years of cumulative corporate healthcare, medical devices, foods, and beverage research and education and experience between us. We are both passionate about bringing creative, community-based projects to life. During our time together, I will be leading the first portion of our podcast, and we will have an expert session on conscious parenting with Lynne Lisa. We will end that session about 1:45 and open it up for questions and answers. So think about those questions, post them at any time in the chat box, and hopefully we will be able to get to those in the end. And then Nivi, Jaswal will lead us through the Q&A and the wrap-up as well. So most importantly, I want to introduce you to Lynne Lisa. She is our expert guest today, and our focus will be conscious parenting, going from stressed to calm parent in 6 simple steps. I find myself wondering where she was when I was a parent of younger children, and the conversations that I've had with her leading up to this podcast today, it's just a treasure trove of sharing that she has and advice that she has for us. So who is Lynne Lisa? Who is our guest expert today? She is an educator, writer, and coach. Lynne has a BA in Family and Child Studies. Like probably so many of us who have dipped into parenthood or are looking forward to dipping into parenthood, thinking all the books she read about child development qualified her to be a good parent, Lynne had 4 unique children who taught her to put down the books and practice unconditional radical acceptance. Now she coaches other parents to trade competition for compassion, conflict for connection. They call her ChillPill Mom, and with good reason. Lynne is a certified holistic health consultant. She has over 25 years of experience in education, alternative and progressive, Reggio-inspired, and unschooling. Lynne has taught in both the public and private schools, as well as homeschooled her own 4 successful, now adult children all the way through high school. Lynne was a contributor to the First Year Homeschooling Your Child by Linda Dobson. Recently, Lynne was featured in Voyage LA magazine. She was a guest on Make Your Life Fabulous Talk podcast on LA radio. Her book, her book, Work at Home, School at Home, is available on Amazon. And Lynne's latest book, Become a ChillPill Mom, was launched this Monday on July 13th on Kindle, and it is already making waves internationally as a bestseller in its category. Lynne likes to hula hoop, do cartwheels, and travel. She facilitates a vibrant meetup group in Los Angeles and an active Facebook group called ChillPill Moms. So, with that, I want to welcome our guest, Lynne. Thank you so much for being here, Lynne. We're so excited about this time together. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's really my pleasure.
Yes. So I remember well when I embarked on my journey into parenthood. Something I learned in my experience and with other parents is that every parenting journey is unique. And the beginning of every parenting journey is unique. So take time to tell us about your early days in parenthood. What was that like for you? And how did you cut through all of the noise out there in the world, the opinions of others, what we see in the media, the books? How did you cut through all of that to find out what worked for you and your family?
Thank you. It's such a good question. As I said, or as you said in my bio, I really thought that being an educator and having a degree in child development and all the courses that I took would make me the perfect parent, which I know sounds hilarious to those of you who have children, and you can feel free to laugh at me if you want, because now as an experienced mom, I know how funny that is. I really thought that the information that I got was going to be what I needed. And then my baby daughter, my firstborn daughter, came, and she had not read any of the books or studied child development. So she didn't know what she was supposed to do, how often she was supposed to eat, or when she was supposed to sleep. So she decided she was not going to do any sleeping, and she was just going to cry a lot. And it was really, really stressful here because I didn't know what she needed or what she wanted me to do. And I would ask other people, what should I do? The baby's crying. And they would tell me their advice, you know, try giving her sugar on her nipples, or, you know, all kinds of advice, and none of it worked. And then finally, when I think she and I were both crying, probably just lying on the floor crying and crying, and I just looked at her sweet little face, and I just asked her, like, what do you want? And I heard a message come back from her, even though she was a baby and couldn't talk. And the message was surrender. So I turned down the volume on everyone else's loud advice and messages, and I turned up the volume on my child to find out what she needed. And she was able to communicate in a lot of ways what she needed. That made such a difference. So one of the 6 steps that I offer to all of you is surrender.
Surrender. And I imagine that as a parent, that is a beneficial tool and tip, not just in those early days, but throughout parenthood. So thinking of surrender, it's a gift that we give our child and ourselves. There's so much noise in the world, shutting it out, tuning into that child, listening to ourselves, and navigating. So with that gift of surrender in place, how did your journey as a parent evolve?
Well, I would love to say that everything was perfect after that. But I had to continually surrender because people change, babies change, they grow, they have different needs. And then I was blessed to have another child, a lovely boy. And I thought, all right, I've mastered parenting. Now I know what to do. But his needs were 100% different from hers. Where she was independent, he was more connected. He wanted to be held. She wanted to run around. So again, I had to recalibrate. And I remember at that time with my second child, and then again, as I had more children, 3 and 4 children, with the second child, I remember looking around and seeing some moms who were so together. Get up in the morning, put on some lipstick, paint a bedroom, bake some bread, take care of the children. They were all pressed and everything. And I was with 2 babies, and it was a miracle if I even got in the shower by 5 o'clock. So I realized that I needed to do something different. And if any of you were those kind of put together moms like that, the painting of the rooms and the baking of the bread, I commend you. If you are one of those moms, please put in the chat so we can celebrate you. But if you were like me, a little bit more of a mess, I appreciate that too. There's room for all of us. My lesson from all of that, though, was to organize. I got to a place where I just knew I needed to be able to handle everything. I needed to be able to get dressed and take care of my children at the same time. So I organized. And that's my second step, going from stress mom to calm mom, organize.
So as you talk about that organization, give us some idea of what that might look like. Like what worked for you as you surrendered to your family and your needs of your family, but then wanted to organize. What did that look like for you? How can we apply that in our lives day to day?
Well, of course, everybody's family is different and everyone has their own specific ways of organizing. What I found really helpful was just to have one central command place in my home. In my home, our central command center was the kitchen. It's where people spent most of the day. The children were snacking and eating and playing, and I was always working in the kitchen. So I put a large wall calendar, huge actually, a huge wall calendar on which every single activity, chore, appointment that anyone in the family had went in this organized calendar. I have some other organizational tips in my book, Work at Home, School at Home, for every room in the house, but this was really the thing that brought us all the way from babyhood through adulthood, was our one central calendar. We organized on it, and it was also a place where everyone could see what their responsibility was.
Okay, so this idea of organizing, it really manifests itself in terms of creating a calendar that kind of acted as command center for organizing your lives, not just in babyhood, but up through the adult years. And things get pretty complicated in there, right? As our kids are growing up and all the different activities. But when I listen to you talk about organizing and using a calendar to do that, something you mentioned made me think about how you can use that tool, the calendar, as a tool to delegate. And I know you have some thoughts on that. So you have this calendar, here's who needs to be doing when, whose responsibility it is. Talk to us about delegation in family life. What part does delegation play in parenthood and family life that can help us?
That's so important, because so many moms take on all the responsibility of the family, even moms who are working full time. And I have a client actually that I've coached through this. She is a working mom. She has 2 children. And at the time I was working with her, they were 7 and 10. And she was so stressed from cooking all their meals, doing all their schoolwork with them, their homework, getting their sports uniforms together, making their calendars, making their social plans, going with them to their friends' houses. She was stressed out of her mind. And when she came to me to work with me, she was almost, she couldn't even take a full breath, honestly. So we worked together to help her delegate some of the tasks that her children could be doing for themselves. The most important ones, of course, were their own homework and schoolwork, because that was definitely not something that she should have been taking on at all. And so they took on their schoolwork and their homework, and she gave them some other delegated responsibilities too, like making their own snacks and their own lunches, which really helped her. The other thing we worked together on was helping her to catch that breath and to exhale. Mm-hmm. So tip 3 that I offer to you in 6 steps is delegate. And step 4 is exhale when things get tough.
Yeah, that's key. Even as you say exhale, it makes me want to pause and catch my breath. So.
There's so much power in a simple pause, as you say, and an exhalation. And so I would like to invite everyone here, if you are willing, to just take a moment, if you're comfortable, to do a very brief breathing moment. So if you are comfortable, please just ground yourself and find a comfortable position just for a moment. And then, if you can, just fill your lungs to the count of 4. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and just hold for a second. And then we're going to slowly exhale for 8. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll just do it again. And this time, on your inhalation, hold a picture in your mind of something or someone that stresses you or makes you anxious, and breathe in for 4, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this inhale for 4, just inhale some love and forgiveness, and exhale all your concerns for 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. when you're ready, simply blink your eyes open. How was that for you?
Made a big difference. If anyone wants to put any comments, the impact of that just minute-long meditation or breathing exercise, feel free to share something in the chat box. I know for me, relaxation, catching our breaths. And so unpacking what you've shared with us, this idea of delegation and exhalation and how key those are to navigating our parenting lives. I think first of all about the delegation. When you shared that, it made me think of a parent who shared with me years ago. Our job as parents is to work our way out of a job. And that's where delegation comes in. That's the answer to it. Our job is to work our way out of a job. Where does that come? Age-appropriate delegation.
That is so brilliant. I love that. Parenting yourself out of a job, because parenting is one of the only jobs that's actually a job as well as a relationship. And the point is that what we really want to do is build and preserve the relationship and wane away from the job. And I have a story about that, actually. When my daughter, the one I was just telling you about, stopped crying, she went to college. And because she had homeschooled all her life until college, her first day at university away from home was her first day of school. And a lot of other people were very concerned for her. How will she do it? Will it be a big change for her? How will she do living away from home? So her very first day, when she was living in the dorm, she went and got herself a job that she ended up having all 4 years. And then she helped all the other people on her floor learn how to do their laundry. And then throughout the first week, she helped them run their schedule, when to get up for school, when to study. Because it was interesting, so many of the people who'd had more handled, managed childhood did not have any experience in taking care of their own responsibilities. So delegating to her at a young age made her more successful when she left the house.
So delegation is key. Navigating as a parent. I'm not sure there are very many books that really address that the way you have right now, and the powerful tool that can be, that age-appropriate delegation, while also remembering to take time to excel. And so I think about that delegation in place, having those times to excel, to breathe. They've never been more important. We know by now, right? We're months into this. We are navigating unprecedented times. Most of us probably feel more than ready to have these times over. They're not going away today or tomorrow. They're here with this idea of exhalation in place, of taking those pauses, those breaks to breathe. That is very helpful in navigating these times. We need breathing space as parents. We need breathing space as families. As we think about navigating these times, Lynn, with the delegation in place, the idea of surrender, and giving ourselves those pause breaths, what is key to helping parents navigate forward during these times?
Well, as you said, COVID times are really the most uncertain times that we have experienced in our world, probably in 75 years. Certainly in the United States, in the last 75 years, this is the most amount of uncertainty and anxiety. And honestly, there are a couple of things that are very valuable. One of them, of course, is that exhaling. And this is a great tool to teach your children as well, because they're feeling it too. They're completely uncertain and anxious. And we don't have answers to tell them about how long this is going to last, or even what's going to happen with their schools in the fall. But I also know that because parenting is a relationship in addition to a job, I mean, I certainly didn't realize that when my children were young, that we would all be living together as adults, quarantined and not being able to leave the house, really. So it's a good thing that we have built a strong relationship. And what I am now finding with everyone being home, working, studying, cooking, planting. I mean, there's so much going on in my house. I'm sure this is true for you. And I know my clients have been calling me all the time. We need to simplify the way we're living. We need to simplify a couple of things. One, our space and our time for certain. You can't see. It looks in this corner where I'm sitting as if I have empty space, but I don't. If I were to turn this camera around, you would all scream because there's just stuff here everywhere. But I've had to let go of a lot of the things that I used to care about. I used to care that I had a formal dining room where I could invite people, but I'm not inviting people anymore to dinner. I'm not having people who don't live in the house over. So the dining room is now my husband's office and a storage space for some of the things my sons brought home from their apartments. Simplifying our space and simplifying our priorities are really key. And that is the next step that I invite you to take to go from stress to calm. Simplify.
So simplify, as you say that, I think we envision this plate on a table in front of us and all of the things that are on it. And part of the simplification, what I pictured in my mind listening to you is, okay, I'm taking it all off. Like, I'm setting it aside. Let's clear that plate. And keeping in mind what you've shared, the idea of simplification. What are the most important things that I need to put back on that plate? And what can I simply let go of?
That's so good.
So as I think about what you've shared, all of these tips and these steps, they go hand in hand. Simplification, letting go or surrendering. As we seek to do these things, I also think about the complicated time we live in and how sometimes, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I've thought about it recently. It feels like there's a lot of mountains around us, a lot going on, some really serious stuff. And the thought that I've had is, let's do everything we can to make these mountains into molehills. And the key to that is that simplification you've talked about. It's very clear to me. So with simplifying in place and the other tools that you've talked about, what else would you tell parents would be beneficial and helpful in navigating these uncertain times?
Well, certainly simplifying and making molehills out of mountains, which I love, Deborah, that's so great. It's opposite of what everyone else tells us to do. Everyone else is telling us we have to do more. We have to be constantly doing. And what I am saying is what you're saying, do less. Let it go. Take it off the plate. And here's a good example for you, right? Because I have in my closet a whole closet full of shoes that match all my outfits. Closet full of beautiful, beautiful shoes. And I am not wearing any shoes. You can't really see, but I'm barefoot. I haven't worn a pair of shoes in 4 months. I throw on flip-flops or tennis shoes to go in the car if I have to go anywhere. So that's something I've had to simplify. I think about a lot. Simplifying what we have and what we do. So I'm sorry, ask me again what you just asked me. I'm not sure if I answered.
So no, with that simplification in place, what's important, what's not so important, what's really at the heart of all this? What is really that final most important step when we think about our families and navigating those relationships?
Wow. It sounds obvious probably, but probably the reason everyone decided to start a family in the first place, which sometimes we forget when we're caught up in all the stress and concern, is love, right? Just, we love our families. We want to be beacons of unconditional love. And that is really the key to all of this, because it's impossible to focus on fear and love at the same time. Love and fear can't live in the same space. So whenever anxiety comes up or stress, and around real things like COVID, focusing on love instead, something that you love to do together as a family, something that feels like fun is love, something that feels like forgiveness That's love. Something that feels like togetherness and connection, compassion. Those are all ways to feel love. And that is, I think, the most important key to going from being caught up in stress and just really enjoying your family, is just to focus on the unconditional love. In my book, Become a ChillPill Mom, there's a whole chapter on unconditional love. And I realize it's difficult sometimes to quiet enough to focus on love, especially if your children are having temper tantrums, or you're struggling about schoolwork, or, you know, any of these real life things that happen in families. So I always recommend doing something a little bit easier than focusing on loving a behavior you don't like, or loving someone who's aggravating you at the moment. And it can just be as simple as affirming for yourself, I am okay, I am loving, and taking a step away, or just focusing love on something that's easy to love, like your puppy or your favorite houseplant, something like that.
So in the more simplified way of navigating family life with love at the heart, that is the key. And in some ways that may look similar for each of us, but in some ways very different. But what are the things that we can do? You've got us thinking about that. When you and I have talked in the past, you shared something very powerful about love and worry, and how those two things go hand in hand, or maybe not hand in hand. Share with us your thoughts on that now, love and worry.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, let's ask everyone here too also, if you would, have you spent time worrying about your children? If you have, please type in the chat, yes. Because as a parent, I worry, we worry, right? You worry about your children. I was raised by very loving, very worried, fearful parents. My father, still to this day, I'm in my 50s and he still worries about me as if I am a little child. But as a child, and really my whole life, I never felt that as loving. It felt painful to me. It felt guilty. It felt shameful, because I was concerned about keeping his mental health okay, right? He was worried about me because he loved me, but then I felt it was my responsibility to make him feel okay. But that's not a child's responsibility, to make a parent feel okay. And it doesn't feel like love to have someone worry about you all the time. It feels like shame or guilt. But what feels like love is things like, as I said, connection or fun. And I know as a mom, when I worry, it doesn't feel loving either. It feels a little bit uncomfortable. It feels sometimes like controlling. It feels anxious. It doesn't feel like love. Love feels light.
So as I listen to you share about this, I think that gift of exhalation, and that time is where we can pause, hit that pause button and think, okay, what am I choosing here? Am I choosing love? Am I choosing worry? Sometimes worry motivates us to action, but sometimes it's just something that we need to let go of, and especially right now, to focus on the things that we can do. Your thoughts?
100%. Yeah, we can worry all the time. There's always something to worry about. And when things get difficult, like now, the worrying doesn't solve it. There's never been a time in the world where collective worry has solved any enormous problems. However, love solves a lot of problems. And love certainly solves a problem of a family who's trying to get through a difficult time. It's not going to be easy all the time, and it's not going to be relaxing all the time to have a very hectic home life and a family during COVID times especially. But it can be a time to build a really strong relationship. Honestly, I have to say I'm so happy that we have these strong relationships here in my house, because we are 5 grown people piled up on top of each other with 2 big dogs. And it could go either way, you know? That's what I would say about it. I would say when all else fails, just try love.
Yes. So in choosing that love, we create a home where all feel welcome and where we have space to thrive together. I have a curiosity here as we move to wrap up and open up for question and answer. Sometimes as parents, we come in with really strong expectations, or let's say all of the time. And I'm thinking about the different steps that you've shared, and I'm curious about your thoughts about this. We come in with expectations of who our child is going to be. My child is going to be super academic, or whatever it may be. And then more often than not, maybe our child's a bit different from our expectations. What are your thoughts on how to navigate that parental expectations of who we think our child's going to be and who they are in fact being?
I'm so glad that you asked me that, because I found that 4 times with my children. Every time I thought that I knew who this person was going to be, they surprised me. But I think the surprise part is the most fun of getting to know someone, because our children are just people. And even though we may have birthed them or acquired them at a very young age, we don't know who they are. They know who they are. And the best way to find out is just to really connect with them and radically accept who they are. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you have to accept every kind of, behavior that someone does. You don't have to do that, but you do have to accept who a person is if you want to have a really lovely relationship. And that's the fun of it, getting to really know each other and see who they're developing and how they're going to be in the world. It's so much fun.
So along with that love that we share with our children, just this curiosity and open to the possibilities of who our kids are that may or may not match those expectations, but it's an adventure we're on together. So as we move to wrap up, I find myself thinking about the different tips that you've shared, the different suggestions that you go into deeper in your book. The organize, surrender, delegate, excel, simplify, and then at the heart of all of that is love.
It's very hard to remember all 6 things. So I have an acronym that helps, and it is, can you see it? It is do less. Do less. Oh, yay, look at yours. Do less. Delegate, organize, love, exhale, surrender, and simplify. Beautiful.
And a great reminder, especially during these times, to pause and maybe do less if possible. There's certainly times that we need to do more, but I suspect there are more times that we can do less and benefit from that. Before we move to the question and answer, Lynn, are there any other thoughts that you want to share?
Well, I have a million thoughts that I'd like to share. But right now, I think the key is to just keep breathing and remember having fun with a family. It can be really fun, even, and especially sometimes when it's super stressful. Maybe play, maybe be silly, maybe just let things go that aren't that important. That's what I would say as my final closing words.
Sure. Thank you so much for this conversation, the time you've taken with us and the things that you've shared. I know in our pre-podcast conversations and in this one, you've generated so much thought for me that I'm going to go forward with and weave into my parenting life of kids who are older and returned home during these COVID times. So thank you for that. At this point, we want to shift to Nivi to conduct the Q&A period and to do the wrap up. So thank you so much, Lynn, for this conversation. Very much enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Debra and Lynn. This has been fantastic. I just wanted to say that, we were very careful that we wanted to have a really small select group of people for this conversation so that it becomes a safe space for moms to ask questions. I do have a brilliant comment from Stephanie Kruger, and she says, think of creative at-home learning experiences I recently started a weekly FaceTime story time with my granddaughters aged 4 and 6. It's been so satisfying for them and me. Tell us a little bit about that, Steph. That's a brilliant idea.
I was just looking for different ways to engage with my granddaughters who live in Michigan. I'm in Minnesota, and I just miss them terribly. And in the summertime, they're busy playing, and they live on a lake, so they're always boating with their family. And I don't know how, but I just thought of it, and it's been really, really fun to have that half hour to 45-minute window of time where I have their attention. And my 6-year-old, she is in kindergarten, and she's reading really well already. So I let her pick out what story she wants, and she reads to me first. And anyway, it's been really great because it's back and forth, and it's still evolving, but it also gives my daughter a chance to be with her 2-year-old and get that one settled down for bed. So my daughter calls it babysitting time. I said, it's not babysitting. I said, it's so fun just to engage with them. So I love it. And I think it's something that a lot of people can do. Or, if your parents, young parents, encourage your, aunts and uncles or grandparents to jump in and do something like that to help lighten your load too and switch it up.
Wow, that's awesome, Steph. It sounds like you were able to really reframe, something that sounds like a chore to a lot of, grandparents out there,
Right.
or even parents out there, babysitting time, or calling parenting a chore. You were able to reframe that and then call it, hey, this is my engagement moment with my grandchild. That's amazing. Has any one of you also had, the moms on this session, have you been able to reframe some of the things that you do with your children, and which might have felt like a chore before, but you just thought about it very differently and then experienced benefits? Would love to know. Rajveer, do you want to share something? I know you're a really, really creative mom.
Well, thanks, Nivi. No, I would say I have one, and I just focus on her so much. And overall, she is a good kid. I would say she is very easygoing, and part of it is because I am calm, so I find she's calm, and that's what my friend's observation is. They're like, your daughter is very calm. It's because you are so calm. I'm like, well, thanks for that compliment. But as you were giving your presentation, for me, that delegate part really resonated with me, because I was in that phase where, oh my God, I have to do everything. I have to pack lunch, I have to pack breakfast, I have to do this, I come home, I have to do chores, I have to run my own business. So I was in that chaotic stage. But now she's 5, and she learned at school how to fold laundry. Wow. So now here you go. I did your laundry, fold your laundry, put it away, and she enjoys it. She loves to empty dishwasher. We come home, I'm making dinner, and hey, come on, help mama, can you empty the dishwasher? And she loves doing that. So that helped me a lot, and that gives me more time to spend and do things with her. Then we say, okay, let's help each other, and then we'll read a book, or we'll do craft, or we'll do painting. And she just loves that. And I was sharing with Nivi too, I have started listening to some meditation in the evenings, and now one day I watched her with her pretend phone and headphones on, and she says, Mama, don't bother me, I'm doing meditation. So I loved it.
Oh my God, one of the fundamental tenets of educational psychology is imitation, right? Children learn by imitation, and what they see us do is what they want to do, but how, more importantly than that, how they see us be is who they want to be. And so many insights right there, right? So Stephanie, you mentioned about engagement, and it's back and forth. So because you wanted to engage, you're being the engager. So your grandchild wants to engage. She wants to re-engage with you. With what Raji was just saying, she's calm. And this is an observation that a lot of other moms have, that, oh, you were calm, which is why your daughter must be calm. People in our environment pick that up as well, and they give that feedback to us, which is excellent. Not all feedback is awesome, but I think that some of these things are compliments, and we should accept them with, pride and happiness. Anyone else want to add to this? Basma, you mentioned that you work with, clients who are parents. Your interest is in children and in teenagers. Did you have any specific questions, or did something that in the conversation between Debra and Lynn resonate with you? Would love to know from a coach's standpoint.
Well, I used to work as a youth counselor, and so some of the things, and I also studied child psych, but like Lynn, it's a completely different experience at learning something from textbooks than it is real life experience. I just, working as a counselor, I just kind of really resonated with, well, a lot of the steps, such as surrender and organize, especially, and just, I hear a lot of flexibility, and that was really helpful during when I worked, because I don't really know how to say it, but just kind of giving the kids some sort of independence and control of their lives when things feel so out of control. And yeah, it's just kind of bringing me back to way back in the day. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. The two key words that, jumped out at me were flexibility and giving them independence, giving them control, right? When we're being flexible, we're actually giving up our need for control, and we're letting them have some control over their life. And we've got to remember, for little beings around us, we are authority figures. We're those tall, big people around them. And whatever we say, however we say it, it's their world, right? And it shapes the inner voice that they develop. And that goes on to sort of feeding into the personalities that they turn into, right? And when we give them some control by choosing to be flexible, we're creating space. And creation of that space also, generates the ability to exhale, which is one of the tips that Lynn and Debra discussed, and I know that Lynn's a big fan of it. I highly recommend that you guys check out her Facebook page. It's called ChillPill Moms. It's a really highly engaged Facebook page, both for people who coach other moms or certain segments such as that, but especially it's built up with lots and lots of moms of different age groups, children of different age groups. And I remember when I was sort of visiting your page, Lynn, you have just so many tips every single day. And not just that, you're also holding bedtime story time. So there's like story time recordings on there, and people participate in it. It's a very highly engaged group. And there's just a lot of information that one gets, a lot of insight that one gets into the world of parenting, as well as the world of the one who's being parented. A lot of focus is on people, adults who are parenting. But what about the ones who we are parenting, the ones who are being parented? And they're the target audience, and I have a consumer psychology background, so I always say customer is king, right? So if that's consumer is king, and if consumer is king, then as parents, our consumers are children, right? And if marketeers around the world spend millions of dollars trying to understand their target consumers so they can innovate and create products and programs and practices for them, then oh my, oh my God, if we're not doing that and you guys are not doing that as parents, then we're probably not serving those target audiences, target audience in the right way. And innovation, creativity is the name of the game, because these are personalities that are not cast in stone, they're developing. And the big thing that, amongst all these different takeaways that I had from this conversation, Lynn mentioned that children change, they're changing from year to year because they're growing older. So your target audience is changing from month to month, from year to year. You got to keep on your toes. You're basically marketing to their needs, and when you do that well, you can end up with, brand loyalty, which is basically, parents who are loved and children who feel loved in return, and that is the big journey that we're all on. The other thing that I wanted to mention was this complicated word called love, right? A lot of us have very different experiences of our own when it comes to love, especially when it comes to parental love. There are certain cultures where spare the rod, spoil the child, was or continues to be a mantra. And then there are some other cultures where you really, really sort of, hold the child, coddle the child, and you basically make them boss baby, right? So it's a spectrum, right? And when I say cultures, I don't necessarily mean, different countries, etc. Every family tends to have their own culture, and we are outcomes of that culture. But love can be complicated. So my question to you, Lynn, and to the moms who are really experts in your own right, because you're raising your children, and the coaches that we have on the call here, is how can people address this term love? Love seems like this really big, complicated, complex topic. How can you make it easy? How can you reframe it? Lynn, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that you're right. It is a huge word, and it carries a lot of baggage when it comes to us, because we have all had many, many experiences where it was disappointing, it was hurtful, it was painful, it was heartbreaking, or whatever the feelings were. So yeah, simplifying love can just be as simple as changing the word. Maybe language matters so much, so maybe changing the word and making it about the emotion that you feel. And I think we talked about this a little bit, that love feels like lightness. It feels like ease. It feels like joy or fun or connectedness or togetherness. And so maybe if you could find words that are easier. And we also use the word love so freely and cheaply in a way, because we use the same word to describe our feelings for our children that we use when a song we like comes on the radio, right? So I think changing up the language, certainly. And also, I do a lot of affirmations, and this has helped me in a big way. And I invite you all to try this as well. I use any words that come after I am are very powerful in our subconscious, right? So whatever we tell our subconscious, I am, it believes. So I say things like, I am compassionate. Or I even use a noun, I am compassion. I am love. I am connection. And that has really helped me in that way. But I'd love to hear from other mamas and other coaches what you think. Please jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to share I don't know whether it's a question or it's just something that I struggle with. I have twins, a boy and a girl. And I think sometimes I feel, and of course I love them more than life itself, but sometimes I feel that, and they've just turned 13 this year. So sometimes I feel that just as a personality type, I get my daughter a lot better than I get my son. And sometimes, and now he's grown up enough to get that he feels I don't get him. And I just, and it's a a continuous learning process for me. And the COVID situation has, in a lot of ways, I'm thankful for it, because it's helped me rediscover them. And they're also at this age where their personalities are changing, because 13 is the time when you start asserting independence, and you start figuring out what you're about, and it's your own perception of yourself that starts getting formed. And I can see that that they're pushing the boundaries a little bit. They're both of them are doing it, but I think some of the bits about my son that I really struggle with is that I think a part of it is also my conditioning as an Indian parent. Part of it is my own personality. I've always believed I'm very diligent by nature. I have always philosophically, behaviorally been more about, let me do the best that I can do and put in all the effort that I can put in, and then the outcome is whatever it is. And he is what I think is not a diligent child. I always keep telling him that, you have such lovely ideas, and how about you do this, and how about you do this. And sometimes I feel I can literally see it in his face that I'm just like this list of things that I want him to do, and I feel that it must make him feel that he's not doing enough. And I don't know how to balance that out, and so he knows I love him, but how do I make him believe and know and experience that I like him?
Is this Sumati speaking?
Yes, it
Yes.
is, Lynn. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought I said that.
That's okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. How old are your twins?
They just turned 13 this summer.
13. Oh, wow. Well, I commend you, first of all, for being so in touch with your son and your daughter, and what they both are thinking and feeling. It's not easy to do that when you have two children of the same age. So good for you on that. But I do hear what you're saying. He's not as like you as she is. Is that what it is? And so
bits of him, yes.
I hear you. Well, you expressed that you have a curiosity about the way he thinks. And so is there a way that you could perhaps invite him to explain to you more clearly? I think it's very powerful for 12 and 13-year-olds especially, who are just really discovering a lot about themselves at that age. I think it's very powerful for them to get an opportunity to have someone really listen to what they're learning about themselves. I know boys aren't always that talkative. I think my oldest son didn't speak outside of a grunt for that entire year. So I don't know if your son is he verbal in that way? Will he answer those kind of questions with you?
No, actually, he doesn't. He's very he's very uncomfortable talking. It's a very male thing.
Yeah.
I was hoping that wasn't the gene he got, but that's the gene he's got. So he doesn't. So the moment I get into a conversation about, if I see him, I'm like, what is upsetting you? Help me understand that. Or the other day I was trying to tell him that, anger is really about three different emotions. It's about fear, and it's about frustration, or it's about hurt. So which one is it for you? What are you angry about? Are you afraid of something, or are you hurt about something, or are you frustrated about something that's not working? And he was like, I don't want to talk about it. When I'm ready, I'll tell you. And that readiness doesn't happen, right? So I'm trying a different way. So I went out to play basketball with him today, which I suck at, and he knows I suck at it. But it's difficult to find for me to find things to do with him that he enjoys, because he's mostly on his devices. And while that's very controlled, so we're a no gaming household, and so there's very limited time he has on his devices. But it's difficult for me to find things to do that he enjoys that I can be a good partner at. But I was wondering if there's any other strategy that you can help me with, which I can just use to be a little more connected with him, because the talking doesn't really happen. So the emoting gets blocked because of that. But if there's some activity, or there's, what could I do with him which allows him to open up a little bit? Um,
Absolutely, Sumati. I'm so glad you asked me that, because a lot of boys are just like him. They don't even know what they're feeling, and they're not comfortable with sharing it. So yeah, definitely finding an activity. I think it's so brave that you went and played basketball, even though you say you suck at it. That's exactly a great activity. What we found in our family was that there were very few things that we all like to do together, but that everybody liked to have a special mom time. Is there a time where you can just be with him and do anything, like take a car ride and pick up ice cream, or do anything together that is just the two of you?
Hmm. That's what the basketball thing turned out to be today. So that was something I was thinking I will continue doing, at least for the summer till the schools reopen. But I'm happy that you feel that that's something that will help, just to get him into the zone where he could speak.
Because he doesn't have to be talking all the time
Hmm.
because I feel that connection, especially for preteen boys, the connection is the most important piece. And if he knows mom is willing to do this for me, first of all, and is there for me, even if I'm not talking, then when he does feel ready, or if he ever does, he knows he can go to you.
Hmm.
So I think special time together, alone together, whatever it is, even if he's on his device, maybe the two of you could play something together, or maybe the two of you could, watch a YouTube video together or something. My boys still like to do it. They still like to show me funny things on YouTube. I don't always think are as funny as they do.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Completely.
It's a way to connect.
Yes. No, thank you so much for that, Lynn. That was helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking.
All right. Well, we're on the hour. That was very insightful. Thank you so much, Lynn. And Sumati, thank you so much for asking that question. It takes courage, first of all, to actually ask, about a question, and really appreciate that you did. Because whoever's listening right now, and the people, the moms, dads, who will have an opportunity to listen to this podcast, I bet you're not alone. And Stephanie's daughter is not alone with needing to deal with two different children, and how Stephanie's taking care of taking care of one, and engaging and turning that into engagement time, or that Rajveer is not alone with wanting to do everything for her daughter, and then lo and behold, she's discovered that the little one loves to help with dishwashing time, and loves to help with, folding laundry, and so on. I bet similar questions are on all parents' minds, especially given COVID-19. It's a really oddball situation that we found ourselves in. It's not limited to just one country, and you guys here, I know at least 5 different countries are represented, just on this small group session. It's a really, really interesting time to be a parent, to be a coach, and we have both of those represented on this podcast. Well, Lynn, thank you so much. The 6 steps that you shared with us, which all sum up to do less, right? That is big. And because in the world of parenting, whether you're talking to parents, whether you are a parent, there is a lot more that you would want to do, that we'd want to do, but then it turns out that the expert says do less, right? That's brilliant. Great insights, Lynn and Debra. Thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you to our special participants. This is a great opportunity for all of us to learn from each other. And and we look forward to we're going to be bringing yet another amazing podcast session, and that time we're actually spending a workshop time. It's going to be a 1.5 hours long workshop, and in case any of you would like to join for that, and you'll see more about it, we have Susan Newhouse, who will be our session expert next time, and she is a qualitative researcher from one of the world's largest media and qualitative research organizations. And she's going to be talking to us about our leadership brand. And the reason I bring this up here is because as parents, we are leaders. As coaches, we are leaders. And what is your leadership brand might be an excellent, excellent way to find out how you're leading, and also maybe how people who you're leading, especially your children, might want to be led, right? And if engagement is what they seek, if it's connection that they seek, how do we deliver it to them in a way that we all feel mutually satisfied? Because that's in the end what will create that bond of love. Lynn, thank you so much. Debra, thank you so much for the amazing Q&A, and to all our participants. Thank you. We're signing off now, and we will see you next month.
Thank you all so much.